Here are today's top stories. President Duterte criticized the continued spread of corruption as a hindrance to the country's economic progress. House Speaker Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo supports a possible extension of martial law in Mindanao following the Sultan Kudarat bombing. The government expects the remaining tax reform measures to be passed by Congress in 8 weeks. And Filipino-Japanese Kiyomi Watanabe delivers the country's first silver medal in the Asian Games. Good day, I'm Pia Rosas Marato. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. President Rodrigo Duterte criticized the massive corruption in the government, which he says is the reason why the Philippine economy is not progressing like other countries. Duterte says the country's economy would not progress if we cannot stop graft and corruption and maintain law and order. Duterte made this remark after criticizing sacked officials of the 9 Filipino Foundation and high-ranking officials and employees of the Armed Forces of the Philippines Health Service Command over alleged corruption. The president fired the entire board of NPF for leasing its property for a casino resort in Parañaque City despite his moratorium on casinos. He then fired at least 20 high-ranking officials and employees of the AFP-HSC over alleged corruption at the V. Luna Medical Center in Quezon City. The president has repeatedly said that he will not think twice about firing government officials, including his friends, involved in even a whiff of corruption.
This I can say to you. Many years from now, or a few years from now, or maybe a year after, if we cannot stop graft and corruption and cannot maintain law and order in this country, Philippines should never reach the level of economic progress enjoyed by Malaysia and Indonesia on the present level. For tayo, it will take us about 10 years or 15 years to catch up. Maybe more than.
Senators have approved the proposed 6.77 billion peso budget of the Office of the President and the Presidential Management Staff, which is now higher by 12%. Janice Cavett tells us more.
The Senate Finance Committee has approved the proposed 2019 budgets of the Office of the President and the Presidential Management Staff. The proposed 2019 budget of the OP, including the PMS, is 6.773 billion pesos, which is about 12% higher than this year's approved budget of 6.03 billion. Deputy Executive Secretary for Finance and Administration, Rizalina Hustol, said the 8.45% increase in personal services will be for the implementation of the salary standardization law. Meanwhile, the proposed increase in the MOOE would be used for supplies and for the travels of the president. The increase in capital outlay would go to the acquisition of various machinery, equipment, and furniture, as well as other improvements, new buildings and other structures, and expansion and upgrading of projects, among others. Deputy Executive Secretary Alberto Bernardo said the confidential and intelligence funds amounting to 2.5 billion pesos are based on national intelligence estimates of local and foreign situations for the formulation of the President's national policy. The OP's budget will be submitted to plenary following its approval. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
The PNP vows that justice will be served for the victims of the bombing in Isulan, Sultan Kudarat. This after PNP Chief Oscar Albayalde visited the Sultan Kudarat Provincial Hospital where the blast victims were confined. Albayalde says the 36 individuals injured in the bomb attack in Isulan, Sultan Kudarat last Tuesday are now out of danger, and 15 out of the 36 have since been discharged. Meanwhile, the military has obtained a cartographic sketch of the suspects. Investigators completed the sketch by analyzing CCTV footage in the scene. Albayalde says the suspect was not alone when the bombing at Isulan's town fiesta last Tuesday was committed. The police chief said that while a number of groups, including a foreign terror group, has claimed responsibility, the PNP will await confirmation following the completion of the examination of bomb fragments by experts. The suspect was spotted planting the bomb, after which he escaped with a cohort riding a motorcycle. The military has reiterated the involvement of the Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters after identifying the bomb fragments in the area. The National Food Authority clarifies it does not sell rice with bukbok or weevils. The agency issued the clarification in view of reports that NFA's imported rice being sold in the market is filled with bukbok, causing panic among consumers. NFA Administrator Jason Aquino says the infested stocks are not yet NFA owned and that it was their technical personnel that blocked the delivery of the infested stocks. Meanwhile, the Department of Health assures the public that rice previously infested with bukbok are still safe to eat. Health Secretary Francisco Duque III says that just to be sure, rice should be washed thoroughly before cooking. He adds that the fumigation process does not pose health risks. Malacanang says President Rodrigo Duterte continues to trust Agriculture Secretary Manny Piñol amid issues in the country's rice supply. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says Piñol will remain in his post until the president orders him to leave. Roque made the statement as lawmakers led by Buhay Party List Representative Lito Atienza called for Piñol's resignation. Atienza said the problem of food security is worsening under Piñol. Atienza is also asking NFA Administrator Jason Aquino and the NFA Council to resign for their supposed failure to solve the rice crisis. Aside from the rice shortage, the officials were criticized after thousands of sacks of imported rice were infested with weevil or bukbok. Piñol also was under fire after he was interpreted to have pushed for legalizing rice smuggling. Still to come, House Speaker Gloria Arroyo supports a possible extension of martial law in Mindanao following the Sultan Kudarat bombing. The government expects the remaining tax reform measures to be passed by Congress in 8 weeks. These and more when the PNA Newsroom continues. House Speaker Gloria Macapagal Arroyo has expressed support for the possible extension of martial law in Mindanao. Arroyo made the statement after Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea floated the idea following the recent bombing that killed 3 people and wounded several others in Isulan, Sultan Kudarat. Majority Leader Rolando Andayas Jr. said, while the declaration or extension of martial law is a call of the executive branch, Congress would give its concurrence. Meanwhile, Anday suggested that Malacanang should first inquire about the progress of Marawi City's rehabilitation and the implementation of the Bangsamoro Organic Law. If the extension pushes through, this will be the third time martial law in Mindanao would be implemented since it was declared in May 2017. Economic managers are asking the government to clarify the financial issues in the draft federal constitution. This as government spending is predicted to increase once a shift to federalism pushes through. Miguel Hill has the story.
Economic managers are seeking clarity on certain issues from the draft federal constitution. Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez III said this during the meeting between members of the Economic Development Cluster and some members of the Consultative Committee. Dominguez explained that they are not against federalism, but stressed the need to be clear on financial aspects which necessarily will accompany the proposed shift. During the meeting, officials of the National Economic and Development Authority presented scenarios on how the shift in government will increase government expenses. Documents show that the total expenditures may increase by as much as 243 billion pesos or over the budget gap by 3% of gross domestic product. For his part, Budget Secretary Benjamin Diokno said there is really a need for scenario building to check on expenses. He countered allegations that federalism will result in higher spending, citing that this depends on the government's programs and budgeting. He said the government can control its deficit, but this will impact on the programs. Diokno said a change in the 1987 Constitution is really needed because it is already outdated, but stressed the need for this to be carefully studied. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Miguel Hill.
The remaining tax reform packages of the government are likely to be passed within 2 months. Budget Secretary Benjamin Diokno says he is sure that lawmakers understand their importance in realizing the government's infrastructure program. He is confident that lawmakers will pass the measures before they get busy preparing for the 2019 elections. Hearings on the proposed tax amnesty, rice tarification reforms, and taxes on mining and alcohol, as well as the train package 2 are ongoing at the House of Representatives. The Department of Finance has also submitted proposals for package 3, or the reform on valuation of properties, and package 4, which is a comprehensive measure on reforms of financial taxes. Baguio City's Human Resource Management Office is urging job seekers to look at various vacant permanent positions in the city's local government. Assistant Human Resource Management Officer Edith Dawaten announced that over 200 job openings are available at the City Hall. Some of the vacancies include nurses and a disability affairs officer, which was created to handle the affairs and needs of persons with disabilities. All applicants will go through technical, personality, psychological, and critical thinking tests, aside from an examination fit for each position. Councilor Joel Alangsab said that in joining the government, the qualification of the applicant has more weight. He said under the Baguio City government, employees are rewarded for their exemplary performance and service, while those who underperform are dismissed. The City of San Fernando was named Most Outstanding Local Government Unit in Pampanga by the Department of Trade and Industry and the Department of the Interior and Local Government. The city was recognized for streamlining processes in the application of permits, IT innovations, and exemplary customer relations. The monitoring team said the recognition encourages LGUs to improve their business processes and realize their advocacy for a business and investment enabling environment. Mayor Edwin Santiago, meanwhile, said that Fernandinos are naturally accommodating and officials and employees apply this positive trait in their workplace. He believes that every transaction in the city will be fast and efficient when everyone works together. Up next, the Navy's flagship suffers light damage after running aground in the West Philippine Sea. Filipino-Japanese Kiyomi Watanabe delivers the country's first silver medal in the Asian Games. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders. The flagship of the Philippine Navy was lightly damaged after running around at the Hasa-Hasa Shoal in the West Philippine Sea. Public Affairs Office Chief Lieutenant Colonel Noel De Toriato says the BRP Gregorio del Pilar sustained minimal damage in the side of her hull. However, the side thruster of the ship was damaged. 2 tugboats were sent from Batangas to pull out the frigate from the shoal. The BRP Gregorio del Pilar is expected to return to port next week. De Toriato meanwhile clarified that the running around of the Del Pilar was purely an accident. Some 1,000 members of the urban poor group Kadamay and other informal settlers camped out at an AFP-PNP housing project in Bacolod City. Berilita Antes, Secretary General of Kadamay Negros, says they are asking the government to allow them to apply so they can occupy these houses. The group camped out inside the housing site while waiting for a decisive action from the National Housing Authority. Policemen were deployed in the area to maintain peace and order and protect government property. All of the 1,498 units in the housing project have already been awarded to the intended beneficiaries, who are soldiers and policemen. A few families are already living in their assigned units, although the housing site still lacks power and water supply and other amenities. 3-time Southeast Asian Games champion Kiyomi Watanabe delivered the country's first silver medal at the 18th Asian Games in Jakarta, Indonesia. The Filipino-Japanese marched on to the championship round after beating Thailand's Orapin Senatham in the quarterfinals and prevailed over Mongolia's Gangkai Bold in the semifinals. But Watanabe bowed to Japan's Nami Nabekura in their final match at the Jakarta Convention Center Plenary Hall. Nabekura is a 4-time Grand Prix champion and a gold winner in the 2017 Asian Championships in Hong Kong and the 2015 World Junior Championships in the United Arab Emirates. Watanabe, the 3-time Southeast Asian Games champion, is set to train for the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo, Japan. A new movie about the young hero Gregorio del Pilar is set to be shown in cinemas. This subdued and reflective film is sure to pique the interest and nationalism of both history and cinema fans. Maricor Zapata has the story.
After the success of Gerald Parog's General Luna, another historical film will soon roll up on the big screen, this time based on the young General Gregorio del Pilar. Goyo ang Batang General serves as the sequel to General Luna. It gives the viewers a glimpse of Del Pilar's life as a military officer, a ladies' man, a tormented soldier, and finally as the hero of Tirad Pass. A star-studded cast brings to life the people that figured in Del Pilar's short and colorful life. Paulo Avellino portrays the young general fighting alongside the troops of Emilio Aguinaldo, played by Mon Confiado. Epi Quizon stars once again as Apolinario Mabini, and following Del Pilar's exploits is photographer Joven Hernando, played by Aaron Villaflor. TBA Studios co-produced Goyo with Globe Studios. Gerald Parog's months of preparation with the crew promises to give viewers a journey back in time. The film had its red carpet premiere on August 30, while film showings were earlier held in schools all over the country to promote the film. It runs in commercial cinemas on September 5. Goyo is the second of an anticipated historical trilogy sure to be a hit, with its familiar characters, rich cinematography, and timely messages, guaranteed to ignite the nationalistic vibes of Filipino moviegoers. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Maricor Zapata.
Let's now check out the weather forecast for Metro Manila and the rest of the country. Here's another look at today's top stories. President Duterte criticized the continued spread of corruption as a hindrance to the country's economic progress. House Speaker Gloria Arroyo supports a possible extension of martial law in Mindanao following the Sultan Kudarat bombing. The government expects the remaining tax reform measures to be passed by Congress in 8 weeks. And Filipino-Japanese Kiyomi Watanabe delivers the country's first silver medal in the Asian Games. Thank you for watching another edition of the PNA Newsroom. To check out these and other stories, visit the PNA website or follow the Philippine News Agency on Facebook and Twitter. For more stories about the government and how it serves the Filipinos, look for these hashtags on all of our social media platforms and websites. And that's your daily dose of the latest news and information that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. I'm Pia Rosas Morato. Good day.